All right, peace, everyone. Welcome, 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 welcome to Beyond Breaking Barriers with Piper Carter, your host, where we are here on Black Power Media. Just want to welcome folks that are coming in. Appreciate y'all. Want to give some shout outs. Want to give a shout out to J.R. Shields, who's a new member. Stanley Cross is a new member. And Sul Millie is a new member. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Shouts out to everyone that comes with us that usually hangs out with us on a Monday. Let people know to like, share, subscribe. Yeah. And if you can hear me, just put like a thumbs up in the chat or put an ear, emoji in the chat. We'll just give a couple seconds for folks to come in. This evening, we have an incredible special guest that I'm very honored is has agreed to come on here and share with us this evening. I have been a fan of this phenomenal MC for, I was saying, at least a couple of decades. I am a huge women in hip hop fan, but I'm mostly a hip hop fan. And so yeah, like I love incredible lyricists. I love, just talented people. I love people who are original. I love people who write. And so my guest this evening is one of those people who has this really incredible talent. And one of the things that I really love about her talent is that it's unique. I think, we talk about like, oh, why don't we have, more of this or more of that? I think I would really love to see. Now she's worked with a lot of, our favorites, but I would like to see her, catapult into, I would like to see her catapult in the mainstream. I'll tell you that. Maybe I wouldn't, you know what I'm saying? Like I wouldn't want it to get oversaturated. But hey, you know what I mean? I want her to get the support that I feel she deserves. Yeah, so just to recap a little bit for folks who haven't been here before, this is Beyond Breaking Barriers, where the show is centered on women in hip hop. We've had a couple of guests on here already who have shared, some of their story with us and some of the ways in which, they're doing some great work. And for Black August last month, we centered our conversation on political prisoners and specifically looking at women political prisoners. And one case in particular, Joy Powell. So just want to uplift her case. It is no longer August, but, we're always still supporting, our political prisoners. So just want to keep her fresh. I want to say peace to Yipper99. Welcome. Good to see you. Come on in, y'all. Y'all come on in. Yeah, just appreciate that y'all are coming on a Monday to spend a little bit of time. So this coming weekend is going to be the equinox, the fall or autumn equinox. And as y'all know, I also I do a lot of different things, but I'm involved in Black food sovereignty with D-Town Farms. And so this weekend is uh, our 17th annual Harvest Festival. And so if you're in Detroit, come to D-Town Farms from 12 to 6 on Saturday and Sunday. We have the Harvest Festival. So we want y'all to, you know, come purchase some produce from some Black local farmers, enjoy it with your family. We'll have activities, games, music. Molly Wop's going to perform. So it's going to be an incredible time. And guess what? It's free. We have a suggested donation of $5, which is like pretty nominal. But yeah, so just looking forward to everyone that wants to join us there. Yeah, I'm glad you get a chance to join the stream as well, Yipper99. Like really looking forward to you being able to catch the stream. So, like I was saying, we have a guest this evening. We have a really incredible guest this evening. Um, you know, a lot of times when we talk about hip hop, you know what I'm saying? And when a lot of times, most of the time, when you hear about conversations about women in hip hop, the main thing that people always say is like, I don't know, it's always something like that they don't like her voice, or they don't like her presentation, or they don't think that she can rap, or they don't like her lyrics, or they don't like the way she's dressed, or I don't know, there's always some sort of criticism that people have when they talk about women in hip hop. Yeah, come on in. I see what's up, David. Hey, Jamila. Glad you're gonna be in Detroit, joining us. Yeah, peace, 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 y'all. Come on in. So yeah, so as I said, this show, we're not having those types of conversations because, like, number one, we don't care, because for us, it's like women in hip hop come in all sort of like flavors that, you know what I'm saying? We want to see all flavors of women in hip hop. So you know, we don't care, like, that line of questioning or that line of conversation is pretty much irrelevant, because it's basically, dealing with trying to justify, like, people's personhood or the way they present. And for me, the reason that I'm even doing this show is because I wanted to bring forth conversations that I feel are relevant when we're talking about women in hip hop. And so, I'm very honored. I'm very excited to have the guest that I have this evening, because, like I said, she's a phenomenal MC. And I'm saying, like, it's her delivery, her voice, her writing, her style, and she's super versatile. You know what I'm saying? And she's very well respected because, she comes with a lot of authenticity. And I would say that she has carved and created a lane, specifically for herself. And that's one of the reasons that I really, really, really love her work, and one of the reasons I really, admire her. So I'm gonna ask, if you're ready. I'm gonna bring you in. So, are you ready for me to bring you in? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna bring you onto the stream. All right. So, without further ado, I would love to. I'm very honored and excited to introduce to you the one and only Tiye Phoenix. So, am I mute you? Let me see. Let me let you unmute. I think I muted you by accident when you unmuted.
Okay, there we go. Sorry.
Well, all right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so excited. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Super excited. If you could just give me 30 more seconds, I'm going to post this on my main timeline. I already put it in the stories. I put the link in the stories so they can just go in the stories and join
Hit
us
it
right here on YouTube. That was a YouTube link, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So you want me to take you back out and bring you back in?
Tell everybody to be back in 20 seconds. I just want to tell everybody on the timeline to come in and join the conversation, because everybody has so many different opinions and perspectives on women and hip hop and whatever. So I'm like, this is the podcast you want to watch.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna bring you back in. Okay, like a couple of seconds. So we'll bring her back in. But again, like, a lot of, I don't know, put it in the chat if y'all have been, like, if you know Tiye Phoenix, if you know her music, if you've seen her perform, if you have caught her on any of your faves, projects, if you've heard any of the collaborations that she's done, if you are familiar with her work, like, name some of the works that you're familiar with, or let us know if we're, like, introducing you to someone, because that's good too, because we need to know more people. I think a lot of times when we talk about women in hip hop, I know, I'm gonna tell y'all a quick story while we wait. So I told y'all before that I used to live in New York for a while. I was in the industry and all this other thing. And there was a collaborative, like, it's interesting. I have to be careful because I don't want to like out people, like shame them. But there was this like pretty popular like hip hop showcase that happened, right? Pretty regularly. And one of the organizers that was a part of this regular sort of hip hop showcase. I remember I was on the subway. I was on the train, riding the train with him. Please help me not to accidentally say his name. But and so we were having a conversation. This is years ago. This is like probably more than 20 years ago, at least. And we were having this conversation. And even back then, we were just talking about like different women in hip hop. And our conversation was around, because I was saying to him, how come he doesn't have more women on his showcase? And just for clarity, the showcase was like really popular. And so it was basically like a stepping stone for MCs. And so MCs would be on the show and they might get discovered, or at least discover one another and then be able to do collaborations. And it was like a pretty staple and important part of like what I'm gonna call the underground like hip hop scene, right? Okay, so basically, um yeah, he had like all the greats, all the amazing, everybody that was on, like anybody you would see like in the ciphers at like the West Fork, basketball courts, or anybody you would see at Fat Beats, or anybody that was like on the scene, if you will, right? And so yeah, so he I was, he was telling me about, all the time, like who was going to be on there, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, how come you never have women on there? Like, you only, like, every time you go is like only dudes. How come you never have women? And he said something that really offended me, but also, like, I'm going to say quasi inspired me, or like, I'm going to say like jolted me more. And he said, and I quote, he doesn't have women on his show, and he doesn't listen to any women MCs because he doesn't want to hear a bunch of bitches rap, and that nobody wants to hear a bunch of bitches rap, and nobody wants to hear the squeaky little voices. And like, I had never, I guess for me, I had never heard anyone. Number one, he was the first person that I heard, like, just, you know, I guess like blatantly disparage listening to women and women's voices, and had, just blatantly was like, yeah, we're not going to have that on our show. And our argument was like, the gist of our argument was that he was on this trajectory where he was saying that women, uh, you know, that their lyrics are, they can't write, like their delivery's terrible, and that no one cares about what they have to say, and also like that their talent isn't like, up to par with like the guys, right? Obviously, this was like a very heated exchange where, I begged to differ and offered lots of different examples of women who were amazing, from, you know, Rod Digger to Tiye Phoenix to, just a plethora of people, Hurricane G. I mean, there's just so many. But I guess in all this helped me to like see that this is a thing, right? At first I thought he was just the only one. But as time moved on, I started to meet more people who like had this opinion, and I started to meet more people who um you know, just basically said they thought this way. And it was really weird to me. And later, as I said, I had a whole space that was dedicated to this weekly no misogyny, no capitalism open mic that centered women's voices. And so it centered, women MCs, music producers, B girls, like the whole like. And I think that his comments actually, in addition to a lot of other things, helped, help me think like, yeah, we need our own space. But I'm saying that to say that this MC that we have here is has a history and a career that spans all the way from, I'm gonna say, like the good old days of the underground scene of just what the way things used to be is a very different culturally. I'll say, like, if you was a part of that Westport, basketball courts like scene of watching people get eaten up, or going to fat beats, or just there was just like a certain energy and a certain scene that was from that era, and even before, right? Because there's a cultural era of like, hip hop was very much about respect, right? And respect around your writing, your delivery, your lyrics. Like there's just like a whole thing, originality, there's a whole thing. And so something I want to say is Tiye Phoenix is one of these people who has always stuck to being original. And I think when you're in a game like hip hop or music, or just in this game, if you will, there is a lot of cloning, because what happens is people say like, oh, this is hot or that's hot, or let's follow this trend or let's do this thing. But I think, you know, um what I really love is artists who are like, no, I have a vision and I'm gonna go with my vision. And anyway, I just wanted to say that I very much appreciate that. What's up, Sugar Booger? What's up, Jamon? What's up, DJ Rage? So peace to y'all in the building. Glad you showed up. So I'm gonna say, without any further ado, I'm just gonna bring her in because she's full of energy, full of life, and just a super incredible soul and spirit. So without further ado, let's welcome the one, the only Tiye Phoenix. All right, so I think you got to unmute.
Every time. I do that every time. I
Okay.
heard you say rage. I DJ Rage. I heard you say his
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
Let me see the chat. Can I see the chat? Am I allowed to see the chat?
I think you can. If you go over to you're on your laptop. Do you see on the right?
Comments. I got it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Peace,
So
everybody.
yeah. So DJ Rage said, just produced a remix for your current single, Shine Harder. So that's what's up. Yeah.
Or did.
So I was trying to think like where we should start. I'm like, let's do this. Let's start with like where you are now, like your current music, what you're promoting. Let's just start with that out the gate. And we'll keep coming back to it. But yeah, let's talk about that first.
My current music. Well, the most recent release is Shine Harder. And really briefly, not to do a long historical background on Shine Harder, but it was a single that was released early in the spring, um, featuring an artist by the name of Rem. And then it became a social media challenge, a Shine Harder challenge, a 16 verse challenge. And some amazing MCs and incredible artists wrote their 16 bars to Shine Harder. And it just, kind of exploded from there because the song is so, like, the message is just what the title implies, right? Like, the chorus is every day of my life, I'm going to shine harder. You throw shade on my light, I'm going to shine. It's like basically your shine is ordained. Can't nobody stop it. Can't nobody dim it, So people felt, I think it was the message that made people go, the beat was great too. So the beat inspired people to want to write. The meaning inspired people to want to write. So a lot of MCs wrote to the challenge, and the MCs who got the most, like the biggest response, the most favorable response, everybody gave them the most likes, I put them on the Shine Harder remix. And that's what DJ Ray said he produced. And he's in the chat. He said he produced a remix. So he did.
Oh,
And
I love it. I love it.
the video, there is a Shine Harder video that features those 5 MCs, myself, Rim, Priest the Nomad, who's out of DC, Nejma Nefertiti, who's out of New York, and Noor, an MC by the name of Noor, Kim for Life. All of us. There's a video. I shot it. And so directed it, and I'm editing it, and it should be out real soon.
Okay, we're looking forward to that, and I'm gonna see, if we can play it on here. We gotta check the YouTube permission type things because it gets weird. But I hope we could play it on here, even if we just play a little bit. But that'd be dope.
Yep.
To play on here. Okay, so before we go in, I didn't ask you this, so forgive me. Can you spit a hot 16?
No, acapella. Are you serious right now? You really want me to rap right now?
Yeah. I mean, it could be your favorite 16, or it could be a freestyle, just something.
Well, the funny thing is, I have been, not consistently, but several times this year in 2023, I've appeared on, I'll say this, I've appeared on several radio stations.
Yeah, I
both
saw
of them happened to be on Shade 45.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I did some freestyle verses because the most recent show I was on Shade 45 is called the Punchline Academy. So the name tells you exactly what the purpose of the show is, right? Punchlines. So I just recently, well, it's been a couple weeks, but the momentum and the response and people's reactions to that freestyle, it is ongoing. So how about this?
You want to hit that one?
How about everyone who's on here who has not? I know that I saw Rock Minds on here. I saw, Rage. I can't see anyone else that I may know. I know they've seen it, but I see Ralph says he's not familiar. So why don't we do this? Why don't we direct everyone to my page and they can listen to those freestyle? Well, that particular freestyle is the most recent one, but there's several posts.
You want them to go on your YouTube page?
On my go to Instagram. You can go to YouTube. There's music on there as well. But pin to the top of my Instagram page. We can pin posts that we want people to see. So that no matter when they come to the page, they'll see. So if you go to my page, you'll see me performing the verse from the original Shine Harder. Then you'll see me performing the verse from a song that is a collaboration with Havoc from Mobb Deep. And then the third post, either way, there are 3 posts. There are 3 posts pinned to the top of my page where you get to hear me rapping. And then like a little bit before that is the Punchline Academy Shade 45 16-bar verse. It might be 16, might be 20, there's several. There were 2 different clips from that show of rhyme. So I would say, Tiye Phoenix on IG, go to my page and let me know what you think about any of those verses or any of that music that you hear. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's good. Gotta drive traffic. I'll put it in. I just put it in the chat. So since you mentioned Havoc from Mobb Deep, you just dropped that. Oh yeah, I just did a song of Havoc from Mobb Deep. So yeah, let's talk about your collaborations, because you've collaborated with a pretty wide range of artists. Can we let's learn some more about your collaborations?
I have definitely collaborated with, if people I know Ralph said, he's I'm not familiar with Tiye, but it happens in life sometimes, especially in this current time, you are bombarded with so much different information from various media sources, whether it's television, radio, satellite radio, internet radio, your social media pages. So, sometimes you only see what mainstream media is pushing, and that's fine. But I more than likely, even if you haven't heard of me specifically, I more than likely have collaborated with someone that you have heard of. Uh, Most Def, Talib, Kweli, again, Mob Deep, because Havoc is Mob Deep. He is a surviving member, so he represents both himself and Prodigy collectively. Killer Priest.
It's a long list.
There's a long
I was
list.
on there like, wow.
And as generic as it sounds to say Google, because I hate when people say that. When you Google, a lot of different music will come up. I was even in a group years ago with several other MCs. So there's a lot of music from Spotify and just every streaming platform where you should be able to find Tiye Phoenix featuring such and such or such and such featuring Tiye Phoenix. And the list is still growing.
Let's tell us about the group, because that's a pretty interesting period.
I was in a group called the Polyrhythm Addicts, if that's what you mean, because I probably
yes. Yeah.
I was in a group called the Polyrhythm Addicts with two other MCs and a DJ. The two MCs were Mr. Complex and Shabam Sadiq, and the DJ was DJ Spinner. So that was early 2000s. So been on the hip hop scene quite some time. And the funny thing is, as long as I have been making hip hop music and I've been a part of this hip hop music and culture, it's really interesting, but I feel like I've been shaped for this modern time. Not saying any other previous era of my work and my my musical creation and performance, not saying that it's not relevant and it's not important. It definitely is, because it laid down a foundation. It helped me build a foundation. But this is one of the most transformative times in humanity. And to be alive right now in general, whether you're an artist or not, like whether you do music, like to be alive right now, you can definitely say, like, I feel like if you wake up every day right now, that means you have more than likely a very important role in what's happening to the world around you on every level. And if you do music where what you write and what you speak and what you vocalize is going out into the public, is being funneled out into the collective, you probably have a very major role. So I feel it's interesting. I feel like I don't want to say I feel like I've just begun, but I feel like I'm now just scraping the surface of what will come about in just everything, like humanity, not even just the music industry, but humanity.
I mean, you just mentioned, you know what I'm saying, like Mr. Complex, right? You mentioned Shabam Sadiq, which is like already like, we love anyway. And then DJ Spinner, I mean, one of the most creative musical architects, right, that we have. And you were saying you're in a group with them. I mean, just if people know, just each one of y'all are so unique and individual and creative, but just to have y'all be in like one group, and then you're like, yeah, that was then. And I think about like that period of time, you know what I'm saying, which was very I would say it was very forward, right? I mean, now it probably would fit in like this moment, like you're saying, right? And I think something that I really appreciate about you is, I was saying before you came on, is that you've always been, I want to say, married to your vision, right? Like you've never looked to like, oh, I'm gonna try to be this now, or this is hot, let's go over here. Like you've always had your vision and you stuck to your vision, and it's just been a blossoming like ever since. So I wanted you to talk a little bit more about that, because I think artists struggle with that a lot, like trying
Yeah,
to like make it work. So can you talk about that for yourself?
absolutely. It's interesting that you observe that. Some people would say that's rebellion, but then again, what are you rebelling against? When you choose to be yourself and never waver from being yourself, who are you rebelling against? You're only supposed to be committed to yourself, and what you have to do and what you represent. That's You should never waver from that, right? So I look at it like this, Piper. There's birth, death, and that space in between is what we're doing right now. It's called living life. So if it's in between these two events, birth and death, that means it's a finite experience in the physical world. I know people say, well, you never die, nerd, no one ever really dies, whatever, like all of that type of stuff. But in terms of our physical experience, that is a finite, you know, that is a finite experience, our physical life. And if you feel like, if you're confident about who you are and what you came to do, and you know the gifts and the abilities that have been instilled in you in order for you to do what it is you came here to do, when you turn your back on that and you deny that, or you sell out, or whatever people say, sell their souls, or they just completely abandon what it is that was inscripted for them to do. And when I say inscripted, I mean literally inscripted in your soul, like in your heart. When you turn your back on that, that's a fail. To me, that is failure. That's failure, because one of the reasons why you have to follow what you know in your heart to do is because although you can't see the road ahead of you, you can't see every single dynamic or event that may unfold a week from now, 2 weeks from now. I mean, we can look into things because, astrology allows us to do that, but that's another story. That's another topic. We're not talking about astrology right now,
But
but
we
I have
will. But we
but we
will.
will.
Yeah.
But we will. But even though, let's say the average person doesn't feel confident about, if I say, well, what do you think is going to happen this time 3 weeks from now? What do you think is going to happen this time a year and a half from now? The average person will be like, I don't know. Okay. But even if you don't know what may happen in the future, a day, a week, a year, 10 years from now, if you're following your heart, just know that you are on course, because you don't know what's going to happen. Some people may say, well, that doesn't make sense that Tiye Phoenix always stuck to whatever this vision is that's in her head, and she only wanted to, approach music like this, or approach subject matter in lyricism about that. Why didn't she go this route? Why didn't she experiment with that route? Look how much success has come to such and such artists. Why didn't she duplicate what they were doing? Or why didn't she? But people don't know why I've been told to do what I'm doing, or why I've been given the assignment or the instruction or the tools or the strategies or whatever. They don't know that. You don't know what's in store for him, in store for her. You don't know what's down the pipe. You don't know what's coming. You don't know what changes are going to happen on the landscape of music. You don't know this time, at the where we 3/4 into 2023, it's almost over. Let's rewind the clock 4 years ago. This time, 2019, you didn't know that you would be social distancing a few months after that and be in the house every day. You didn't know that there would be a pandemic and you would be afraid to shake people's hands. Nobody knows what's coming. Nobody knows what's coming. So when you make decisions based upon what's in front of you, you are making decisions from a very limited scope and from a very narrow view of reality, right? Because we don't know. We could wake up tomorrow and everything that I've ever talked about as a rapper, everything I've ever symbolized and stood for as an artist, it may become mainstream. Who's to
Right.
say? And then what I'm doing at that point is conventional. It's
Right.
not against the grain. At
Right.
that
Right.
point, I'm in tune. You know,
Right.
even if people are like, well, she was already on that. You know what I'm saying? So when you make decisions about how you want to live your life, how
Hmm.
you're going to function, and the choices that you choose to make, or the decisions, or what have you, and it's based upon what you see in front of you and what somebody else did or what somebody else is doing, you roll the dice
Hmm.
and run the risk of not only following your divine blueprint, you definitely betray your own divine blueprint when you base what you should be doing on somebody else's actions and
Hmm.
somebody else's reality. But you run the risk of literally turning your back on your calling, and then the events in your life and just how things flow, it's just all out of sorts. If
Yeah.
that's the most simplified way that I can explain that. So in terms of being true to me and having my own vision, it wasn't so much like me just rebelling, like I said, or just even trying to be different. It's really me being obedient to a vision that I've had from day one. Even if the vision is slightly modified because you change and life changes and you learn more and you have more experiences, it tweaks, but the vision and the goal itself never really changes. The strategy might change, the approach might change, but the goal itself never does when you are
Yeah.
committed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that, and I want to dig deeper into when you talk about your approach, and your process. Not to give away your secret sauce or anything like that, but can you talk about, like, producing? And I think when a lot of times in the conversation around women in hip hop, it's kind of super limited. I feel like you have shown us over these last couple decades, like the ways in which an artist can just present oneself and you know through all the ways that you've shown up, and
Mhm.
I think, because for me, I hear so much when I hear your music, and when I say so much, I just think about um I guess I just think about when I'm listening to your lyrics, I think about the stories that you're talking about. And I feel like, I know her, I know these people, I know what she's talking about. Like she's talking to me, she's talking about me. Oh, I know. So I guess I'm curious about your process of like being able to tap in. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a space that you're tapping into, and I think you make a great connection. Like you know how to connect, and I think and it's witty, it's poignant, it's hard hitting, it's rough, it's beautiful, it's creative, it's unique. I would even say sometimes I don't even know what you're talking about. Uh
Oh no, that's not good.
but I guess what I mean is, like, you know what I'm saying? It's like it leaves one a little mystery. Let me put it that way. There's a little mystery there. And so, but at the same time, you kind of remind me of Ghostface in that way, where it's like, I guess for me, I mean, I know it seems weird to compare you to Ghostface, but for me, you remind me of Ghostface. I mean, not like Ghostface, but in a more, I don't know, Tiye Phoenix way. But but you remind me of Ghosts. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like you be saying, and it's like you gotta kind of sit with it for a minute, if you understand what I'm saying. And then some stuff is real plain, but some stuff it doesn't really hit you until you like you hear it a few times, and then some stuff is like, you're like, I know who she talking about. I don't know, but it's just like I don't know. I wondered if you could share a bit more about, yeah, your process. You know what I'm saying, with us.
First of all, I'm like super flattered. Ghostface, to me, really quickly, he's always represented a very individualistic, abstract, but yet poetic, but yet relatable, but yet relatable, but yet edgy, and still kind of like this rebellion, but oh wow, like almost like it's like it's conventional, but unconventional at the same time. But not to go into to Ghostface, but I think that probably, if I'm just gonna go out on a limb with this, I think what you probably hear is simplistic ideology, but expressed in a way that's so unique that it's not over your head, but it's not so basic that you go, yeah, 2 + 2 is 4. We knew that. Thanks. You know what I mean? It's like,
Precisely.
it's like, well, you could say, um, it's just about really utilizing similes and metaphors in a way where people feel like they can identify with what it is you're talking about. Um, like I'll take a line, for example. I'm just going with this. I hope you're like content with the way I'm like interpreting the compliment, because I was very flattered, and I'm gracious.
I think you hit it. Like that's what it is.
Like I said, writing that freestyle that I directed the people in the chat to go listen to. I said, writing great bars from early morning to the night shift. You young Ray Charles, you lost vision, mind sightless, because Ray Charles lost his vision as a child. So I said, young Ray Charles, you lost vision. But of course, it's double entendre, because vision and sight, sight is the actual physical ability to perceive your environment with your eyes. Vision is in the mind. So you lost vision, like something like that. But then like the opening line, I say, everybody's rapping these days is basic and typical. Watch the weed you blaze, they lace it with fentanyl. Very direct, but something you didn't expect to hear. Like, I didn't expect you to come back and talk about, like, I didn't expect the follow-up. Like, even comedians have setup lines, and then they have the follow-up line, which is the punchline. No different than writing raps. You asked me about the process. Now I'm kind of giving away gems, right? I'm giving away gems. But even comedians have setup lines, and then the line that follows is known as the punchline. It's no different from rap. Everybody doesn't write raps the same way. I'm not saying this is a general agreed upon approach to writing a rhyme, but I feel like as a rapper, the way you speak should not be conversational. It should be a little more abstract, a little more entertaining, a little more left field, a little more whatever, just a little more than regular conversation. So, like I said, we're now going into the logistics, the poetic, like I said, everybody rapping these days is basic and typical. Watch the weed you blaze, they lace it with. So the days and the blaze rhyme. Like there's rhyme inside of the whole rhyme, which is Rakim. Rakim did that. Everybody rapping these days is basic and typical. Watch the weed you blaze, they lace it with fentanyl. You see how the intonation and inflections emphasize the internal rhyme as well. I'm giving away too much, right? but that's like, we're rhyming. We could just rhyme the phrase itself, because the ending words can rhyme, or we can rhyme inside the rhyme several different times if you want. Watch the weed you blaze, they lace it with fentanyl. You got the mad face because I'm placed at the pinnacle. it's just like I kept going, watch, every rapping these days, the weed you blaze, you got the mad face. Like it just kept going with that syllable pattern. But at the end, basic and typical, laced it with fentanyl because I'm placed at the pinnacle. Like it's just like it kept, there's rhymes inside of the rhyme, inside of the rhyme. And I just be like, excuse my, I was about to really be crass and just like, do motherfuckers hear what I'm doing here? Like, did they hear? Like, did they get it? Like I'm rhyming, but I'm rhyming inside of the rhyme, inside of the rhyme, inside of the rhyme. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's dope. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that you just articulated probably what I really love about, just listening, because like you said, it's simple, but then you're like, you got to think a little bit about it sometimes, right? And then sometimes like you said, it just comes. I wanted you to talk a little bit about because you have so many great songs, but I wanted you to talk a little bit about the song you did with Fonte. And I thought that was pretty dope. You the song Too Late for Us, and like basically it's like this kind of he said then she said, it's like a breakdown of the relationship. And I wanted to hear about what was the process like when y'all collaborated on that song, and like why you explored that theme, and also too, what was it like working with Fonte, because I love him on Twitter, like he makes my side hurt. But anyway, I wanted you to like share about that.
That was, I would say, well, we weren't physically in the studio together, but you do know that no one's physically in the studio together anymore. Like, I mean, some artists are still sitting on the same couch when they're creating a song. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but we were in two respective locations. Spinner did produce that song, and a lot of people actually have shared the same sentiments that you just shared about that record. They really love it. I mean, Fonte is a brilliant artist. Definitely one of my favorites. So being able to, and that was that was one of the collaborations I did not mention. When I mentioned names of people, I was trying to remember a lot of, the names. But yes, that song, ironically enough, that song is about a separation, right? And I think I was going through a divorce at the time. I was getting divorced at the time. I believe so. If I'm remembering correctly, it was close. Not saying my verse was specifically about my personal experience, but I think it was close, like around the time frame. But that was great. Like that record, people still to this day like hit me up about that song.
No, that song is like, I think, is it a little, it feels like a little brother song. I mean, it's on your album, but it feels like a little brother song, if that makes sense.
I think they used it on their album too.
Okay.
I think it's on their album as well. If I'm not mistaken, what was that? Was it? I don't want to throw a wrong title out there, but I know that there was an album that they released shortly afterwards, and I think it was on their project as well as on Half Woman, Half Amazing.
Yeah.
So
that project, if y'all don't have that project was, yeah, that project is it's a piece of art. Like I think it's a classic piece of art, like the entire project. I think, when we talk about like classic albums, I'm talking about like in hip hop, when we say like, oh, what's your classic, hip hop album? I mean, as a album, as a project, I think that qualifies as a classic album. You know what I mean? Of hip hop. Like if we have like if we went, we have all these museums now. So in the hip hop museum, I feel like that needs to go with classics, because I think when I think of projects, I think about like songs, I think about collaborations, and then I think about albums, right? Or like EPs, albums. I feel like that whole project is so solid. And I'm wondering, can you talk a bit about how you were able to make that project that solid like that? Because I think like sometimes, many times, I think with in hip hop, I think people make albums and they're not really like the album isn't really like,
Cohesive.
yeah, it's just like, okay, there's a song here, a song there, one, two. But I think there's something to being able to make an entire project where all of it is listenable, like all the way through to today, you know? And I want to, to know if you could share a bit about that, like again, you don't have to give away the secret sauce, but if you could share with us, like, what was that like, as opposed to when you make like a song here and there, you know.
I don't want to. Well, thank you so much for acknowledging how solid that album is as a full like project. Because that was something I was very proud of and still am. That it's not one of those albums where you kind of like pick apart. Like I like that one, but then I got to fast forward past three of them to go to the other one that is kind of listenable. And then, nah, I feel like it's a whole well compiled like thesis, you know?
I
And
agree.
definitely the title cut, Half Woman, Half Amazing. I produced that. And to this day, like you said, you feel like you should go in a museum. And I guess I'll put this out there. I intend to live a very long time. I feel like I'm going to live a long time. Like I have this belief that I'm gonna be like 90 years old and I'm gonna look the way that I look right now. Like I just believe that. Like I don't think, like, I don't know. This is just a thought that I have. So I just want to put it out there that in the event that for whatever reasons I do transition and leave this earth and you're still here, please tell them to put Half Woman, Half Amazing, give it its proper respect, put it in the museum.
Yeah,
Make sure people acknowledge it as a very solid project. And you know I really do like artists sometimes judge themselves and say, well, I've grown since I put out that album, or I've matured since I put out that song. And have I grown since Half One Half Amazing? Yes. But people still tell me to this day who listen to Half Woman Half Amazing, they go, wow, this is really like solid hip hop. And in more recent times, I did release an album later. I've released EPs. More recently, I've released singles, um, just so people can kind of just, take bites. Take bites here, enjoy this little entree, enjoy that, we can have a full course meal, which is, I'm likening an album to a full course meal. But at the time, I'm gonna just say it was just divine the way it came together. I'm not trying to say that I didn't have a formula or I didn't really like sit down and map out and really step by step craft how to put the album together and which songs to choose and which songs to reject and which beats to select and which beats to throw away. I mean, yeah, you do that, but you do that consistently, and before you know it, you look up and you like, oh, the album's done. You know what I'm saying? That's
mm-hmm.
what I remember at the time. And I say this with a certain degree of grace and humility, but even at the time I was like, this project deserves way more respect and credibility, than it does, because I don't hear solid projects like this. This is my thought process at the time. You know what I'm saying? But um yeah, that's still here though.
Yeah, no, that's like, if y'all don't have that, just go. Where do you want them to get it from?
half woman, half amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's on digital. The label put it on digital streaming, all digital streaming platforms, I
So
believe. I
you're
know
fine wherever they go. Get it is okay.
at this point, pretty much. At this
Okay,
point.
cool. Okay. All right. So let's talk about Stand on It. Um I think that's the one I use to promote. Yeah.
I
I
think
think
you stop right there.
oh no,
Yeah.
I just stop right there. I just stop. Yeah, no. But let's talk about Stand on It. So um that's like a super hard track, right? Yeah, and it's interesting because for me, I would say your for me, I feel like you make hardcore hip hop, but it's like when I describe it to people and then they listen to it, you got like R&B stuff going on in there. So they're like, what are you talking about? But I guess I'm just maybe my definition of hardcore. I'm listening to your rhyming. I'm listening to your rhyme style. I'm listening to your lyrics. Um, and I feel like if maybe in the future when I tell people that you are hardcore hip hop artists, I should just tell them listen to Stand on It. But let's talk about Stand on It. Like tell us about that track and yeah, I'll just let you talk about it.
Stand on It. Well, that was a single that came out last year, and it features an artist by the name of Rusty Jukes, who is on Duck Down Entertainment, and it was produced by a guy named Batman. That's it. I mean, it's Stand on It was like it has such a punch to it, and so again, it's that message. It's like people oftentimes they wrongfully say that hip hop music that has a strong message or that has conviction, it might be soft, right? Or but there's nothing soft about it, and it's the lyrics are potent, the emotion is there. See, for me, I feel like whether it's hip hop, whether it's rock, pop, rock, I need to feel the emotions of the artist. I need to feel that they believe what it is that they're selling me. And I know every artist doesn't believe what they're speaking, singing, or selling, right? Sometimes it's just entertainment. Sometimes the artist is completely disconnected from any sort of like authenticity when it comes to expressing the song with the lyrics in the song or the subject matter or whatever. But I feel like Stand on It, and not just Stand on It, but many other songs as well. But I think what you will hear what I learned about my music, because you listen to your own music differently maybe than the way other people or outside people listen to it. And what I learned is that I think people, whether they like it, dislike, whatever, they know I'm not cat. They like, she believed when she she wrote that idea, that song, or came up with that idea for that song concept or that song, because she genuinely believes every word that she's saying, or and I really enjoy songwriting. Like, I don't know if people get that, because a lot of people rap, there's millions upon millions um of rappers in the world, but everybody doesn't like songwriting. Everybody doesn't maybe enjoy the process of creating songs. Like, I came up with these dynamic bars, but now I got to add more bars to that, and these bars got to make these other bars make sense, and I got to bring it all together cohesively with a hook and maybe an outro and an intro and like, songwriting is a completely separate art and practice from rapping, because you can write incredible songs, catchy songs, enjoyable songs, and you might be a mediocre rapper, but the song is dope. You know what I mean? Like, think about it. Like, whoop, there it is. Who let the dogs out? Like, these aren't great rap songs, but these are songs that everybody knows because there was something that was done right in the songwriting. Some people might be like, no, it's not that deep. They was just really promoted. They was heavily promoted. That's why we know those songs. But no, I disagree. There's something catchy and memorable and, you know, sort of engaging and magnetic about, you know, Who Let the Dogs Out, or This Is How We Do It. You know what I mean? Like everybody know, like those are songs that somebody somewhere is listening to right now. Like even if they're at a karaoke bar or something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that songwriting is not something that you automatically know how to do because you rap or you sing. You got to be taught the inner workings of
Mm.
songwriting. So one thing I really hope is that people can hear that, like when they hear my music. It doesn't matter if it's hardcore rap. It's not pop like Who Let the Dogs Out. You know, it's not pop,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like This Is How We Do It or whatever, but it's still something catchy and engaging and memorable about the way I wrote Stand On It, what I said, or the way I
Mm-hmm.
wrote, you know, whatever other song you might like you said, you know, Too Late for Us, you know, even though I
Yeah.
co-wrote that with someone else. But I'm saying like, yeah, did that kind of make sense a little bit? So
Yeah, yeah. And let's take us to I Be the Nicest, which is basically like just straight up boom bap. Which I think is it's interesting because like for me, I would consider you, and it's only culturally because I know the culture that you come from,
mm-hmm.
I would consider you a boom bap artist. But if I was to tell people you're a boom bap artist when they listen to your music, it's not strictly boom bap, right? It's we got a little bit of everything. But I feel like this one right here, this is the one where I would say, "See, I told you so." But let's talk about that one, the I Be the Nicest, because I guess for me it just touches my heart because that one for me feels even from the title, but it feels for me more like hip hop culture. Like you've encapsulated hip hop culture, and it's like when you come from this purest sense and this culture sense of it, and you try to explain this to people, it's like you almost can't even explain it because it's like they weren't there. Like they weren't there to experience these West 4 basketball courts ciphers. They weren't there to experience like trying to get into the door at Fat Beats and then being like, fuck it, we're just gonna be outside here and do our own cipher. Like they weren't there to like experience like a lot of those type of things where that kind of world like comes from. But on a song like I Be the Nicest, it's like you actually allow people to step into that world. I don't know. That maybe that's the where I got from it, but I want you to share more because it's your song about that.
Yeah, that produced by DJ Scratch, and it's a song that was, to be totally transparent, it was recorded like around that time of Half Woman, Half Amazing. So when you hearing that now, nobody knew that, right? Like nobody knew. Like that song to me is an example of like pure lyrical dexterity because you got to just hear it if you haven't heard it. It's really like very lyrically uncompromising. If you into hip hop lyricism and you hear that song, even if you were familiar with, you know, a lot of my other material, you hear that and you like, oh, there's a whole nother level that Ty can go with this lyrical gymnastics thing. So that song is that.
Yeah, no, I love it. Um, Let me see. I want to talk about this astrology, but it's so much hip hop stuff I want to talk to you about. Okay,
Yeah. Okay.
one more before that. How about well, how about we talk about a song that you want to talk about where you're going out? Because I could go back down memory lane, but let's talk about something that us maybe a song that you want to share about, like a story about.
Wow, a song that I want to share a story about. Well, I told you guys how the Shine Harder video came about. That was exciting for me because I never did a social media challenge before, I don't think, around my music. So that was really exciting. Wow. A song that has a story attached to it.
I mean, it could be from any period, if you will, any era.
Any era.
Yeah.
um well, let me just say, did you hear, well, not you personally, I guess I want to put you on the spot, but the Masters Program album, there's a Masters Program album that came out during the pandemic. So maybe a lot of people, some people may have known about it. There's the Glow EP, that came out. Sheesh.
There's so much music. That's
There
the
is.
thing too.
I
Like,
didn't realize it till
you
like,
have a lot of music. You have a lot of collaborations. You have a lot of solo stuff. You have a lot of group stuff. You have an evolution of sound. You have levels and variations of style, like a lot of depth. You know, I feel like it's interesting. It's like you have something for everybody, but you're not. But it's like your something for everybody is still you. Like you don't go out like, oh, I'm going to be this because you need an R&B queen, and I'm gonna go over here because you need me to be this. It's like you're still you. It's just like, oh, you want to hear a little bit of that? I'm gonna bring a little bit of that up into this, and then it's gonna work with my stew. It's like you brew it up, so it's like your flavor. You know what I'm saying?
that's a real interesting way of describing it. Yeah, it took me a while, I would think. Well, time is relative, but I feel like where I really got very comfortable with who I am and how I express myself, and just like now, it's so bugged out because now I really am in my own zone with my music. Like there was a time, and I think most artists go through this. If you never go through this as an artist, then to me that would be very rare. But I think most artists have periods where they are not questioning themselves, but you know, I'm very self-critical, self-analytical. So I think artists go through that where you really like okay, how's the best I'm trying to find the best way to express this. When now I don't second guess or overanalyze how I'm approaching my art. I know how it's supposed to come together. Like I'm very much like, because I mean, how you express yourself artistically, like there are rappers who growl, you know what I mean? Like DMX, right? Or,
Hmm.
there are rappers who whisper, or they're very soft spoken, or their tone is, this is how they rap like this, you know? And when you've got to find your voice, and I don't just mean the volume or the tone, I'm talking about you have to find the way that you're going to show up in the world. Like there are some songs I will never do just because I don't feel the need. It doesn't speak to who I am, and it's not me. But now, like when you get to a space where not only what you're going to say, not only the type of production you're going to select, not only the way you're going to approach the song, not only the way you're going to write, when you're confident about all of that, because you just really, you're in your, that's when they, as the street vernacular, you're in your bag. That's what that means. Because one element can be, I guess, a little less stable than the other. Like you may have incredible raps that you feel confident about when you type them or write them or whatever you do, but your beat selection abilities might be shaky, you know? Or you selected the right beat, but the idea and the concept that you tried to marry to the beat, it didn't really come together. That marriage wasn't fluid. You know what I mean? So there's so many nuances and so much that you have to be cognizant of when you create and you want to, make a solid quality creation, right? Um, and I would say having a musical background, I feel like having a musical background gives me a certain advantage in that respect, right? Because I feel like nobody's ever going to put a dissonant or off key violin on my beat because I'm going to be like that on, you know, because I have that ability to know whether it's,
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. Tell us about because you're a classically trained musician, right?
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, can like share that a little bit more.
Yeah, so growing up, playing piano and reading music as well as just hearing it, playing music by ear, I think that has really helped me. Because again, there's so many different components in terms of creating, let's say, creating a product, a musical product, right? It starts with the beat. It starts with knowing, is this beat like good? Well, what makes it good? You know, um, I feel like you should be able to hear music by itself and fall in love with it, right? Like, I feel like if you were to listen to the instrumental to stand on it, or the instrumental to stop right there, or the instrumental to most of the songs I've created, the story is already being told. The energy is already conveyed. I'm just an additional component on top of that music infused with it that's bringing that vision home even further. You know what I'm saying? Like, so bringing out the nuances and the colors and the ideas and making it more palatable to the listener, that's really what the vocalist is supposed to be doing. The composition itself has to be stellar. you know I know that there's instances where, well, the beat was okay, but I just liked the rhyme so much that I ended up liking the whole song, right? Or the reverse, where you say, the beat was amazing, but the rhyme was average, or the vocals were average, or whatever, the song is okay, but I just ended up liking it because I really loved the production or the beat or whatever, right? So there's so many different elements that go into, like I said, the creation and crafting and design of a musical product, from start to finish. So with that, it's like, with that being said, having a musical background, I feel like it has given me a very undeniable advantage in terms of making sure that all of those individual elements make sense. Like, even if a person doesn't like me or like my music, I don't. I like to create music where, regardless, the music itself can't be denied. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, well, they can't say, well, the beat was whack. You're never gonna say that. Well, the rhyme didn't come together for me, or the skill, I didn't hear this. You're never gonna say that. Like, regardless of how you personally feel, you're not gonna be able to deny those individual elements and ingredients that go in, that went into the creation of that product. The harmony in the chorus when it was sing, it's gonna all work, and that's really what I think my focus has been. Not making sure that people like me, or that people, how they, just making sure that it works and that I did the song or the product justice, and you definitely have to have a noticeable, I would say, awareness of music and musicality to make that make sense, to make all those elements make sense when they come together. So
Yeah, and then before we go into the astrology, I'm wondering, so I would call you a producer. would you call yourself a producer, or would you say that you've produced, like, or like, do you produce for other people,
I
or
I'm
would you
so
strictly do that?
I'm
Like.
so glad that you said that. I'm really glad that you said that. Like, I'm not producing for other people in large numbers. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? I have produced, like, in terms of my production, and again, the distinction between beat making and producing, because some, there producers don't have to necessarily play instruments or know how to operate musical equipment, but they may know how to bring together all of the components that make a song come alive, right? There are plenty of credible, famous, successful producers who couldn't tell you what button to push to truncate a sample on a drum machine, right? Very, very successful and well-known producers that they do not operate equipment. I definitely know how to do both. So, am I a beat maker? Yes. Am I a producer? Yes, because Stand On It, for example, like, I'll just use that as an example. Stand On It. The producer, we know each other by speaking, in DMs and phones. We've never been in the same studio before, right? The producer, he of that particular track, the who made the beat, did he come up with the chorus? No. Did he know where to put the chorus? How many times the chorus should come in? What should be said? We're gonna drop this out here and have a little break, and then the beat's gonna come back in. The arrangement. Did he do all that? No. I just purchased the track from him. And the arrangement, the writing, Rusty's verse is gonna go here, my verse is gonna go there. This is what's gonna be said in the intro. This is what's gonna be done in the outro. This is, the A section, the B section, or whatever. That's all me. That's production. So technically speaking, even on the beats that I'm not making, I'm still producing the product, if that makes any sense.
Mhm.
Still producing the product, I know people not to split hairs. So I'm producing even when someone else made the beat.
Mhm.
Okay. Arrangement, uh, songwriting, whether it's harmonies, like deciding whether or not your chorus should have 3-part harmony or 5-part harmony. That's me making that decision. And that's me deciding we're going to have 2 alto parts, 1 soprano part, and 1 second soprano. And then the falsetto will only come in the outro chorus. Nobody's telling me to do that. Even if somebody else made the beat. I buy the beat and I give them the finished song. Here, listen to it. This is what we did. So there's technically speaking, even though I don't split hairs and make a big deal about it or whatever, technically speaking, all of my songs are produced by me, even when somebody else made the beat. Havoc, who did an amazing verse, sent me the verse. I listened to it. I said, this song is going to be called this. I wrote the hook. My daughter sang the hook. These are the harmony parts for this. This will be the outro. This is going to end. We're going to take this part out. So I'm producing all the material. Some of this material I produce and make the beats for, but most of it in recent times, other people have created the beat, but I've produced the product. If that makes sense for people who don't understand that you can never touch a drum machine in your life and be a phenomenal producer. Or you can make incredible beats on equipment and not know how to produce a song. But I don't split hairs, about that. I don't say produced by Tiye Phoenix, you know what I'm saying? But that's something I just wanted to highlight.
Yeah, no, I think, and it's interesting because when we talk about like, I'm always working on projects with women, and something I'm working on is a women producers project. And it's like, I know a lot of women that like have made their music out of necessity, right? Because they didn't have, 50 or $100,000 to pay a producer or to pay a beat maker or whatever, right? They
Yep.
had to figure it out and was like, "Oh, this sound good, so let's do it." And I even know now people like, Ms. Corona is now making beats, and I mean,
Yeah.
there's just a lot of different artists that have done it. But then there's other people like yourself who, what I think I'm hearing is like it was just a natural thing that was like, no, this is the way I want my music to sound. So I'm producing. Is that what it is more?
Yeah, I think it's sometimes you're just married to a vision in your mind, and you
Mm-hmm.
might be like, I can't really articulate this the way that, I mean, sometimes you can. Sometimes you can. I mean, there's even AI, there's even technological devices now, musical devices where you can speak what you're hearing in your head and it will translate it into musical instruments. So that's just the time we living in. You be like, and it'll translate that into um, drums, and that's we have like there's equipment for that now. So this is just the time, time of AI, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but for me, yeah, it's just also sometimes you just feel like I have a great melody. I want to get it out. I've been working, like I said, with other beat makers, more so in recent times.
Mm-hmm.
But I have, you know, that's the thing about me. You'll see music that I created, that other people made the beats, and then one day out of nowhere on my timeline, I'll just post a beat like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
It's so, I don't want to say random, but I just kind of go with what the mood is, and I have beats like on this laptop right now that I'm looking at you on. Like there are beats inside this laptop, like that nobody's heard. And that's always like the thing with you never know. You just
Mm-hmm.
never know. That's what keeps it, like, you like, yeah, I have beats on the hard drive or beats, inside but this beat could be the beat that changes the course of history. I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know. Like, who's to say? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or song ideas. That's what keeps me going. Because for me, it's just like it could be it could be dear to me. The lines I write down and then my notebook, they're dear to me, or the idea that I translated into a beat could be dear to me. I love it and respect the creativity that came through me that I downloaded. But who's to say that when it goes out into the world that you don't know what could happen, right?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to just go to the chat real quick, and DJ Rage said, "Yeah, that's how Shine Harder remix came about. He did the beat, but you told him how you wanted the arrangement to go. So just wanted to shout that out." And then I so we're at the end, but I don't want to leave without letting folks know about, because women in hip hop are multifaceted, complex in a great way, and
Mm-hmm.
multidimensional. And not only are you a phenomenal artist, writer, producer, MC, um, you also are uh, a seer and an astrologer, and you are phenomenal at that too. And you've been building that aspect of self and your work. And I wanted to know if you could share that before we go, because I follow you um, on there too, and yeah, just wanted you to share more about that.
Yeah, I'm a professional astrologer, which means that I look at birth charts, and your birth chart is the arrangement of where the planets. It's a depiction, a diagram, which reflects where the planets were positioned on the day you were born. So wherever the sun was on the day you were born, that's what makes your birthday, right? We every 365 days you have a birthday. That means, the sun goes back to the point it was when you were born. So everybody's doing astrology, because if you celebrate a birthday, you're celebrating where the sun was on the day you came into the world. And then the following year, when the sun was back in that same spot, that was your 1-year-old birthday. And 30 years after, when the sun was back, that's your 30-year-old birthday, right? 30 birthday. And so forth. So everybody's doing astrology technically, but the chart not only shows where the sun was on your birthday, Venus was in a certain position on your birthday, Mars was in a certain position on that same day on your birthday, Pluto, Neptune, all of the planets had specific positions that they were in on your birthday. And the arrangement of where those planets were positioned is called your birth chart. So what I do is read birth charts, meaning that I look at that chart, that arrangement of where those planets were on the day you were born, at the specific time you were born, and I tell people about their gifts, their talents, their challenges, their lessons that they brought into this life from previous lifetimes, whatever they want to know specifically about their career, relationships, family dynamics, their spiritual life, their health habits. Everything is reflected in that particular chart. And not only are there birth charts or natal charts, as they're called, there's numerous types of charts. Like synastry chart is how compatible your birth chart is with somebody else's. So that synastry chart is how well your chart blends with your husband's chart or your best friend's chart or your boss at work or whatever, because you may be, trying to figure out, why is it that I really get along well? What? There's always an issue with that coworker. It's more than likely the synastry chart between your birth chart and their chart would reflect where that conflict is or what have you. And then there's, for example, what's called a solar return chart, which is exactly what it sounds like. Solar return is your birthday. So that is the chart from this birthday to birthday in the following year, that 365-day period. Like if you're 30 years old and the following year you'll be 31, that year, whatever's happening in that year, whatever was going on that day, the 30th birthday, all the way up to the next year when you turn 31, that's called a solar return chart. So there's so many different types of charts to read, because everything in the universe has a birthday. If you say, I'm opening my restaurant, my business, I'm opening a restaurant next week, next Wednesday, the time that you open that restaurant, that time would indicate the birth chart for that restaurant. The restaurant would have a birth chart because it has a birthday. Anything in existence that is born has a chart, because the planets were somewhere when that particular person, place, thing, business, pet, or whatever was born. And that chart will tell you. So that chart on that time and that day that you open your restaurant, that chart would tell me about the business of the restaurant and what would happen in that restaurant. Like, so is that a very simplistic way to make astrology sound simple, where people might not be understanding it fully?
I think so. And I guess, before we go, like, I see the connection, but I wanted you to like demystify it for folks. Like, what is that connection between the Tiye Phoenix, that is this phenomenal hip hop artist, writer, producer, and the Tiye Phoenix that is, helping people with your astrology readings?
Well, it's in my chart. It's in my chart to being an artist, a musician, a writer, what and it's also in my chart to be an astrologer. Astrology is ruled by Aquarius. That's Aquarius energy. Any sort of like arcane sciences, whether astrology, numerology, cardiology, those sorts of things are Aquarian things. And in the chart, there's a placement called the North Node and South. Well, two placements: the North Node and the South Node of the moon. They're referring to the nodes of the moon. And the North Node is what we came here to learn. It's not what's familiar to you. You're learning it. And the South Node is what's already familiar to you. You already did it, whether 10 years ago, 10 lifetimes ago, it's familiar to you. So my North Node, which is what I'm here to learn, what I'm here to manifest, what I'm here to do, and to hopefully become good at, is in Aquarius. So in astrology, being ruled, by Aquarian, relating to Aquarian energy, that is my North Node. And as far as you said, like being a seer, it's interesting because you don't have to be a seer to be an astrologer. An astrologer is not a psychic. If I have psychic abilities, that's just another gift that I would have that would be reflected in my chart. But in order to be an astrologer, you just have to interpret astrological data. Now, if you have the ability to see and intuit and those sorts of things, that would color how you do your astrology. But astrology is just really mathematical, numerical data. If your Venus is 16 degrees of Leo, you don't need to be a psychic to see that. It's 16 degrees of Leo. There's nothing to interpret about 16 degrees. Now, if I tell you what that Venus at 16 degrees of Leo means and how it's squaring your Pluto at 14 degrees of Scorpio, and I'm talking about that square between those two angles and whatever, that's kind of where interpretation comes in, right? But yeah, you don't have to be a psychic, a seer, clairvoyant, clairaudient to be an astrologer. And a lot of people get that confused. But the gift of sight, I've been told by others that I do have it, very intuitively aware, which is supported by my chart placements. Do I bring that to my astrological skill? Yes, I do. But that's just something that you see in me. Like if I never studied astrology, you would probably still pick up that I'm very intuitive and aware and tapped in, because that deals with the same part of the brain that you make music. Your right hemisphere of your brain is you being a seer and you being intuitive and very empathic and things of that nature, and creative, right? So I'm left-handed, typically, and that's governed by the right hemisphere of the brain. So all of those sorts of things, those right hemisphere related, functions, like I just said, being a seer, clairvoyant, the clairs, clairaudient, clairsentient, whatever, it's that hemisphere of the brain. So maybe you just picked up that I have, those abilities, but I would have those abilities if I had never studied astrology.
Mm-hmm. And so, first of all, I want to say thank you for coming, because we're already like at 90 minutes. I told you it's gonna be 90, so I don't want to eat up more of your time.
And this is perfect time, and my battery's going to die. This is great.
So I just want to tell you thank you, and just so much gratitude. Thank you to everyone in the chat for joining us, and to all of the folks that you brought over to check this out. I think this was a great conversation. I love just how much you've shared and how open you were. So thank you for that. And I think, there are, like you said, there's lots of interviews with you where you're doing freestyling, where you're saying like more of your history and a lot of things like that. So I tried to bring you things that I didn't see, I think, so much in other interviews, so that this would be another interview that you could add to your pantheon of interviews. And is there anything before we go that you want to leave us with?
I just want to thank you for extending this invitation to come on here and your platform. I love what you're doing. You have my eternal support for anything that you're doing in the community, hip hop community, as well as the larger community, the global community, because hip hop rules the world, right? So, you know, if you need me for any other reason, you definitely have my support always. And thank you to everyone in the chat, like you said, who came over, and for those individuals in the chat who may not have been familiar with me. You definitely opened the doorway for them to go explore my music and to, you know, follow me. I'll definitely follow you back. I know some people said they were going to go follow on IG to look at the musical posts on there, and I guess we'll be in touch, definitely, right?
Yeah, and also too, I just want to let people know that I've gone to you do the astrology kind of regularly, and I've like popped in and checked it out. And it how is there like a certain day? Is that like on a schedule?
Oh, you mean for people to to watch me do a live or something? No, it's
Yeah.
very random. It's when I feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're
Mm-hmm.
interested in getting your chart read or learning more or what have you, there's different services. Some of them I didn't even highlight. You just message me. I usually reach out to everyone. When you hit me, I'll hit you right back. So
Yeah,
message me
that's
on
true.
IG.
Oh, awesome. Well, thanks for stopping by. Just want folks to also, like, share, subscribe with Tiye Phoenix on, IG. She's always on there. Go to her, all of her platforms to get her music, and also to check out her different interviews. They're really great. I love seeing the freestyles. And then of course come back here on Mondays at 8 p.m. live, where centering women's voices and women in hip hop, beyond breaking barriers, because we're want to do more than just break a barrier. You know what I'm saying? We want to, just dig in. And we're here on Black Power Media. So like, share, subscribe. So we appreciate y'all, and have a good night. Peace.
Good night, everybody.